Welcome, my name's Doctor Warrick Bishop. I'm a cardiologist, I'm an author and a keynote speaker. I'm CEO of the Healthy Heart Network. I'm all about trying to help people live as well as possible for as long as possible. Heart disease is huge in Australia. Every 20 minutes someone suffers a heart attack. Most of these could probably have been avoided if only we knew what to do. This podcast is all about helping you understand blood pressure, weight, cholesterol for better health. If you enjoy this podcast, I would be honoured for a 5-star review. You can share it with your family and friends. It may well save someone you love. Hi, it's Dr. Warrick here, and thanks so much for joining me on my podcast or videocast station. I'm really pleased to have as a guest today, Rosy McEvedy.
Perfect. That's perfect.
So I think I'm dyslexic with the Max and the Evedy, so McEvedy.
Perfect.
Rosy, apologies for getting tongue-tied on that, but for those listening, Rosy is a dear friend. She's from a background of pharmacy and nursing, and we've met through her being the founder of Ivy League IV Therapies in Sydney and across Australia. So welcome, Rosy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Look, I'm super excited to have you as well. For those listening, my disclosure is that I met Rosy through the IV clinic services that she provides, and I've actually opened a business in Hobart that aligns with Ivy League, and we're super grateful for their support and leadership in this space. But I know many people not really across what IV therapy clinics may do. They're not broadly recognised in Australia. They're really starting, probably recognised more overseas. And I think the opportunity to speak with Rosy about what these clinics can offer and do is a great opportunity to share. So I'm really looking forward to today, and for those listening, an opportunity to really find out more about the sort of other things we can do to help and boost our health along the way. So, Rosy, how did you get into this space?
So I started the business about 9 years ago now. It's coming on to 9 years, so almost a decade. Time flies. And working in the healthcare system here in Australia, I was exposed to some really great mentors. So I must disclose that I was actually very blessed to meet some great mentors, such as Dr. Sandra Cabot, who's one of Australia's most well-known integrative doctors, who's retired now, Dr. Sean Hall, founder of Bioceuticals, and most recently, Dr. Craig Conover. And so these mentors over the last 9 years have really guided me and really came to fruition how preventative health in Australia was quite behind. So we had a really great focus on modern medicine, which is absolutely amazing. However, there was quite a big gap in the preventative space, which was quite prominent already overseas. And so we did just start with the very basic vitamins, such as vitamin C, B, magnesium, and zinc. That's how we started with just those 4 vitamins. However, over the last few years, with collaborating our amazing pharmacy in Adelaide, we were then able to bring in a lot of the nutrients that they do use overseas and start really applying those protocols as well. And so over the last 8 to 9 years, we have now have an extensive list of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. We've got chelation, which is a heavy metal detox, NAD+. And now, most recently, that's really come to light is peptides. So we've really been able to broaden our horizons with what we're able to provide and really look into that preventative space that was sort of lacking back about 10 years ago. And now I think a lot of people are starting to realize that they can take their health into their own hands. And it's not a matter of let's just age and allow these comorbidities to build up. It's about, okay, how can I live and optimize my health as best as possible?
Look, that's a great starting point, but let's break it down because there'll be people listening who won't be familiar at all with some of the words you used there.
Oh. Sorry.
And that's okay because that's the whole point of the podcast, so people can learn a bit. But one of the things I want to deconstruct that you rolled through
Yes.
was that you're dealing with vitamins,
Yeah.
minerals,
Hmm.
chelation,
Hmm.
NAD plus, and peptides. So maybe we just take a few moments to touch on each of those in a really, maybe just a really very much an overview way. And as people listen, we can explain what they are. So let's start with
Let's
minerals. What are
go
the
one. Yeah, so let's do a one on vitamins, minerals, and I guess the difference that it makes when you do it intravenously versus taking it orally, which I think most people are very familiar with. So when you're administering IV intravenously, which means through the vein, you are able to administer vitamins at certain concentrations. That's a big difference between taking it orally and doing it intravenously. So, for example, vitamin C is a really great example of not being able to reach a certain concentration within the body if you were to take it orally. So, when you do high doses of vitamin C, you're able to really activate certain properties such as antiviral, antibacterial, because you're changing the pH of the blood. And so, how it's working, whereas you wouldn't be able to do that when you're taking it orally. So I won't list all the 25 nutrients that we have, but the most common ones I would say is your B vitamins, which are great for energy, zinc, vitamin C, magnesium. These are all great for the immune system. And also, just in the replacement of the quality of food that we have these days, it's really hard to obtain that level of nutrients from your food unless you're really getting that raw, organic produce. It's really hard to actually extract that in your gut. And then it comes to, gut health, which is a really, I guess, diverse problem we have these days is people not having optimal gut health. And so there's a lot of different factors why someone would choose to do intravenous vitamins. We do a very thorough consult to really determine what is the best concentrations and vitamins for a certain individual. But that's a very 101, I guess, high level of what intravenous vitamins and minerals are. Just some examples.
We certainly, I think most people who would be listening to this are probably aware, and I've seen stuff, articles and things come across my desk talking about a broad population deficiency of magnesium.
Mm,
Uh, Many people are short of magnesium, mainly through, as you allude to, modern agricultural practices, actually.
mm, mm.
So, magnesium, which we know is so important for so many things, I think it's a cofactor in over 400 different chemical reactions in the body. It's great for blood vessels and hearts. That's why I'm interested in it. But
Yes.
sleep, relaxation, stress levels, a whole lot of things. And I think it's even related to collagen formation.
Yeah, well, magnesium, yeah, it's one of the most important minerals that is out there. Look, magnesium through an IV is actually excreted quite fast. So that's one of the supplements we actually recommend orally taking as well daily. I myself take oral magnesium daily because it is so important. But
Yeah.
when you do it through an IV at high concentrations, it does actually help with activating the thymus gland, which is really important, as you know, for the immune system. So there's different elements as to why you would do certain concentrations, different vitamins in an IV. But magnesium, I completely agree. It is a lot to. I think a lot of the issues these days is the the produce that we are buying from our supermarkets. I mean, at the end of the day, we do understand for it to go from the farms to then the shops and then the big like Woolworths and Coles to actually sustain, they need their produce to stay alive.
Yeah.
They need to stay, not they don't can't rot that quickly. And so there's obviously the preservatives and what they spray on it. And it does end up changing the quality of the produce that we do have. So it's just the world we live in. And I think for me, a lot of my nutrients come from my supplementation. It's really hard these days to really ingest and take that from your diet. A lot of it is mostly for me from my supplementation or through the IVs.
Look, for those listening, just we've talked about soils
Yeah.
and minerals, but we also often think of vitamin C as something that comes from our food. And what you're talking about, Rosie, the current sort of practices of supermarkets and growers, um, is really important because I came across fairly recently someone who was expert in vitamin C in citrus fruit and other fruits in actual fact. And it
Okay.
turns out that the vitamin C levels in the fruits are very low until just before that fruit is fully ripened and drops on the ground. And the reason you have the antioxidant in there is to protect the seed on the ground. So there's this
Oh,
flush of vitamin C within your average orange just before it hits the ground in anticipation of it rotting and then seeding a new tree. So if you're
so
picking,
interesting.
yeah, so if you're picking it early, the tree hasn't even had the chance to infuse that um, fruit with the vitamin C
Yeah,
for protection of the seed. That's what it's all for.
that
Uh,
is so interesting.
yeah. So this is real stuff, and I think our current modern practices where things are refrigerated, picked early.
Mm,
I had a tomato last night given to me by a patient, growing in his backyard, and I have to say it doesn't taste anything like
like
a
it.
tomato you buy from the supermarket. It was beautiful.
You'll find that, I've been to some health retreats where everything is obviously grown in the backyard and in the place where I am actually doing the retreat. And it is just day and night when it comes to taste, when it comes to feel, look, and how when you're eating it, how you feel even. But in this day and age, as you know, it's virtually impossible to do that unless you have a full-time garden at the back to sustain. And so I believe that what we're doing is trying to fill in that gap where we can really fit into that modern lifestyle.
Yeah. Look, I want to also be clear that as we're talking about this, there may be people listening thinking that we're advocating this for everyone and saying everyone should have IV vitamins and IV minerals and so forth and so on. And I think you and I have spoken about this offline, and I'll just reiterate, we're not pushing that as the situation at all. We're really opening this for people who want to be proactive and
Hmm.
think that they may wish to explore whether they're a bit low in vitamin C or a bit low in magnesium, and whether something like this helps them or not. I guess you confront the opportunity to speak with people about this regularly.
Oh, absolutely. I have to agree with you there. I would say the numerous amounts of people who would approach me and say, how often, what should I do? For us, the real goal out there is educating people to be able to really feel in their own bodies when they feel their immune system's lacking or their body's overrun, and educating them and teaching them which vitamins are for what use and how that works also within the body. For myself, even I don't do drips every single week or I'm not on a strict vitamin IV drip regime. I really am in tune with what I need. And if your immune system, if you've been eating really well, you're taking a vitamin D supplementation, you don't feel under the weather, then there is no point to do a high dose vitamin C with the zinc, because you are maintaining that on your lifestyle. And so it totally, I have to agree with you, when it comes to, we're not advocating say every single person needs this. It's really about the people who can benefit, and educating the population to say these are the options out there if you would like to take them.
100%. So, I mean, our own experience here, again, to reassure people who are listening, our own experience here in Hobart, and we're only open very recently, are people who may have traveled, who may have not had the opportunity to eat their usual diets, may be fatigued, run down, and are looking for something to just help support their immune system, their body, and recognize and respect that they may not have been able to make the dietary choices that they wished. And so we're seeing people in that space, and really importantly, all of the people who come through the service as through your service, because we follow what you do, have all
Yeah.
been assessed by a medical person, a registered nurse, appropriate bloods, if required, are reviewed, medical histories are taken, and whether it's appropriate for these individuals is decided on a one-to-one basis. So really important.
Yes, they're very important to know. It's completely individualized, and we like to look at everything, at every aspect of that person's lifestyle, not just, what they're feeling. So how they're sleeping, what their diet's like, their job. We like to look at everything as a holistic view.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to touch on two other things, but
Yeah.
reasonably quickly, because I think I really just wanted people to realize that there's a service there that can allow them to access things like vitamins and minerals, which may give them a boost, will make them feel better. I know I had when I had my B12 and magnesium drip when I came up and did the
Yeah.
training with you guys. Slept the best I had for as long as I could remember that night and
Yeah.
felt super well. So you certainly can feel a benefit from these
Yeah.
things, these infusions.
Mm.
The I won't get on to collation, but for people who heard the word chelation and don't know what it means, it simply means that we are able to infuse a molecule into the bloodstream that floats around in the bloodstream and draws any heavy metals out of the tissues, particularly things like mercury, which you could be exposed to through eating um, predator fish. Um, Things like lead, which you may have been exposed to if you grew up in the era of lead paint or in the era of car, petrol not being lead free, and things like arsenic, which can turn up even in the drinking water. So, chelation's another story. We might do it another time, but
Yeah.
chelation simply means taking those toxins out of the body.
Hmm.
NAD plus is almost certainly a conversation of its own.
Yes.
Give me two or three lines on that,
Okay, a
and
101.
then we'll look to wrap it up because
Yeah.
I'm sure we could talk about NAD plus
Yeah,
for
we could talk about food, but we can
days.
yeah, we can continue the conversation a different time. But just a little 101, I guess it is a chemical cousin of B3. So it is a coenzyme which is it's abundant in your body and mostly abundant when you're born. So you've got an abundance of it and declines about 50% every 20 years. So there are quite a few different pathways that it's involved in, but the one that we're most interested in is its ability to repair and restore your cells. So over time, as you can imagine, it starts declining. You are exposed to toxins in the environment, the stresses in your body, and though that you've got less NAD plus, that means less ability to repair your cells. And so that's the main one that I believe a lot of people it's in conversation these days about how your NAD plus levels is directly linked to, I guess, the aging within your biological aging is a good way to say it, and how that really then affects all the other cells in your body. The other pathway it's really important is your Krebs cycle, which I'm sure if anyone's done biology, they know that's your energy production. And so when you think about less NAD, you're thinking about less energy. So those are that's I guess the highlight of NAD plus. And what we can talk about next time is obviously the replacement, how you can do that orally, how you can do that at home, how you can do that IVs and the different, I guess, pathways we can take with that and replacing NAD plus.
Look, I think it's a very interesting space, and if anyone's read David Sinclair's book, which I think is called uh,
Lifespan,
Lifespan,
I
he
think so. Wait.
talks yeah, he talks
Yeah,
about
yeah,
um, maintenance of the integrity of our DNA as
yes,
part of our aging process, and really NAD plus ties closely into that. But let's put a pin in that one and talk about
yes.
another time because we could go on about it for
Go on,
hours.
go on. I could speak about it for hours. I've got an
Yeah,
NAD plus training I'm doing tomorrow, so I'm ready.
Beautiful. The other word that you mentioned early on was peptides, and for anyone listening who heard that, didn't know what it means, a peptide is really just a sequence of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and a peptide is just a small sequence that has a biological action. So you could literally take a protein like testosterone, which is a male sex hormone, but you could take off or break off the active end of it, which is the bit that locks into the cells and gives the signal to behave like a male or behave in a male hormone way. And that little piece of the testosterone protein is called a peptide because it's multiple amino acids. Just a couple of very quick words on peptides and then
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah, peptides, just as you mentioned, it is just a short chain of amino acids, and they're very powerful in the sense that they're already present in our body, but when you inject peptides, which is how you generally take them or take them orally, they just cascade certain events in your body. So you've got peptides for your skin health, you've got peptides for human growth production, you have peptides to accelerate healing, or peptides to also improve or enhance your immune system. So there's a variety of peptides which we can jump into as a separate podcast, but they are definitely emerging. And what I would say, it's one of the, I would say, the greatest integrative health tools that we have. However, I will just mention with caution, as it is growing in popularity, it's really important that the one thing you do is see a qualified medical practitioner and ensure that you are sourcing this from a compounding pharmacy that has all the qualifications and certifications for safety, as they can now be ordered anywhere online. But they are honestly, Warwick, one of the most, what I've seen firsthand, really powerful. And I'm really excited for it to be utilized properly in the next few years.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. It will be a very interesting space. And let's put a pin in talking about peptides on their own.
Yep, yep, yep.
For
Because I go
now,
on to them for ages.
for now though, with a sheer disappointment that we've got to wrap it up just in the interest
Yeah.
of, but I will bring you back and we'll talk a bit more. I'm going to wrap up now. Rosie, thanks so much for joining us.
No, thank you so much for having me. We'll have to continue the conversation on each topic next time.
For those that are listening, I really hope you've got something out of it. I do appreciate that you put aside your valuable time to listen. So it's always my effort to try and give you something that's valuable to listen to. If you have any queries or questions, please let us know at info@drwarrickbishop.online. Follow me on YouTube. I'd love you to do that. And look forward to the next time you tune in. Until then, I hope you live as well as possible. For as long as possible, take care and bye for now. Hi, ever wondered what your risk of heart attack is? You should. It's the single biggest killer in the Western world. We're talking one death less than every 30 minutes in Australia, one death less than every 60 seconds in the United States, 9 million deaths globally per annum. Well, how do you check your risk? Well, you can go to www.virtualheartcheck.com.au. You'll find out about your risk and what can be done beyond that to be even more precise.